I have no idea what you're doing. That's it.
Yeah, don't touch it. The phone is right there, Peter. In your glasses.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I'll be back in like minutes. I'm gonna make a coffee.
We're going to go ahead and get started.
Hello.
Before I officially turn it over to kick off the meeting.
What are you doing?
I believe we have Peter Ashkenazi joining us by Zoom.
Yes, yes,
Peter, how are you?
I'm hanging in there.
Great. Can you see us?
I can see you. Yes.
Fantastic. So, and because we have someone joining us, because we have a board member joining us via Zoom, just a quick reminder then that we are also live streaming the meeting out into the public sphere. So, as a note of administration. So, with that.
All right, I am calling the Board of Directors of Brooklyn Park Corporation meeting to order. I ask Amy Lojak, Secretary of the Corporation. I'd like to welcome the board members, Eric, the staff, and are there any members of the public?
We are joined by Nathi from Councilmember Wrestler's office. And currently that is it.
I would like to welcome you, and at the following the agenda items, if there's any comments that you would like to make, we'll make time for the comments. Now we will get started with the voting item for today's meeting, but before I do, I have the benefit of going to the gallery last week, and the skies parted and it was just, it was beautiful at every level. And I know this was the first year of doing it as a consolidated group.
That's right.
So I want to offer our congratulations. Kind of wonderful. Great.
Really, congrats really goes to Mary Taylor, our Chief Advancement Officer. Mary's entire team and Mary, I hope you don't mind, but we, the gala brought in $1.52 million. So, and all of that money obviously goes back into the park from our, primarily into our capital restoration fund. The main point of those dollars is actually going to be for the new education center that we are building here on the ground floor at 334, which is a great connection to the original conservancy, and that they were so focused on programming and specifically education programming. And so we will be continuing to fundraise, keeping in mind that every dollar that we raise frees up additional capital reserve funds for us to do other things in the park, like repair paths and replacement kind of playgrounds. Great.
So now let's.
Okay,
Yeah.
they always do.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. That, the venue, the shift in venue under the bridge. Yeah.
Mhm.
Really easy.
Which was the absolute reason why we did it.
Okay, moving on to the first agenda item. The first agenda item is the adoption of the minutes of the June 4th, 2025 Board of Directors meeting, which is the part of your board book as item 1. The draft of the proposed minutes was circulated to the directors prior to today's meeting, along with materials for all items to be considered today. Do any directors have questions, changes, corrections, for the minutes? Seeing none, you have a motion to approve. So good. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
The second agenda item consists of the president's report, a non-voting item, annual report, and annual audit report, also a non-voting item, and the approval of fiscal year 2025 audited financial statements, an investment report, which is a voting item, all of which are bookmarked as item 2. And
I will, thank you. It was second to get the screen. Looks like I'm seconds to get the screen away. But while I'm waiting, so obviously every meeting I give an update on everything that's happening in the park and what's going on, and we spend a lot of time talking about it. What we typically don't do, and though they all get an opportunity to oftentimes make presentations themselves while we are waiting, it's a good opportunity for me to, in front of the entire board, really just acknowledge that I am incredibly fortunate to have what I would argue is the most dedicated, passionate, professional team that I get to work with, many of which are in the room, both senior staff in the room. I think with the exception of Sarah and Mary, everyone sitting over here is part of the senior management team. Liz, our new CFO, Amy, our general counsel, Lindsay, our head of capital and capital restoration and facilities, Jeff, our chief operating officer, Matt Moore, our chief people officer, Sarah, of course, you all know, my chief staff and our head of public affairs. And then we have lots of other staff members in the room, and everything that we do, we are only able to do because of the people in this room and all of the people that are not in this room that are currently out in the park doing work. And so I hope you will join me in acknowledging all of them and thanking them for their dedication. That much, many of which has been lived over years and years worth of dedication. Great, and looks like, can you all see? I also want to acknowledge we've been joined by our director, Greg. Good morning.
Good morning.
Traffic, that's incredible.
I just gave him Central Park. Stop.
We like to think of that as the outer borough part.
That's right.
Okay, so. Get rid of that middle. Okay, here we go. All right, so, kind of. Joel, I think you got it, not me.
I don't. Jillian, did you share?
It's shared. Sorry, folks. Real quick.
Share.
Do you have the presentation on yours?
I just have your screen.
You just have mine. So I just stopped sharing. Sorry, we're gonna move ahead without photos. I apologize. If we can get it up and running, great, otherwise in the interest of time. So we had a great summer in the park, lots of great programming. Obviously, this is the first summer where our programming, what had traditionally been the Conservancy programming is now exclusively park programming. And so that was a whole host of fitness classes and kayaking programs, movies with a view on Pier 1, all of the education programs that we do both at our facility currently 99 Plymouth as well as in the park. This summer we launched for lack of a better term, pop-up education programming out in the park. That was really popular as people just walking by saw our education staff and engaged with them in various programming. Kite Festival is always a popular event. All of that took place. And this coming weekend is Harvest Fest, which is kind of the culminating event of the season. It's everything from pumpkins and hay bales and music. It's going to be from 11 to 3 on Saturday at Pier 6. This summer also saw the opening of Bread's Bakery at Pier 1. Obviously our new facility at Pier 1. Bread's our new concessionaire. If you haven't yet been, I highly recommend it. Yeah. This morning.
Walking the dog, that's where I got my breakfast. Highly recommend.
Some of us on staff are very partial to the Marecas. Make sure you ask for it heated. We are in conversations with Bread's Bakery about running a very small. Oh, hey, fantastic. Okay, so that photo's movie, The Crowd at Movies. What's the title called?
Sorry. Keep working on it.
Joel, I'm just gonna keep rolling.
Yeah, okay.
So we're in conversations with folks at Bread's about running a small cart at the ice skating rink, hot chocolate kind of thing. And so that's a conversation that we are having with them. One of the pieces of that conversation is that we really see hot chocolate at the skating rink as like an amenity, less than a money-making thing. And so part of the conversation with Bread's is, as you all know, our current concession deal with Bread's is we get a guaranteed minimum or a percentage of sales, whichever yields a higher dollar to the park, and all of our concessions for the most part get that percentage. What we've said is sell the hot chocolate not to make money, like make back your cost, but not to make a profit, and we won't include it in what we count towards the percentage. Like we're interested in this being the part of the experience and the amenity, not about maximizing profit. So they are working on that now, and we hope to have more to share on that soon. Which then transitioned us to the skating rink, which is that the skating rink is coming back this year. As you all know, the rink costs us a little over $2 million annually. Last year, we purposefully set the ticket pricing really low. And we ended up recouping about $800,000, of that $2 million expenditure. So a sizable cost. Again, we are running the rink ourselves this year as we did last year. We are going to raise the ticket pricing. So tickets are going to increase to $16 for admission, which is inclusive of taxes and fees. $8 for skate rentals, also inclusive of taxes and fees. All of that is consistent. Weekend, weekday, time of day, kid, adult, no variation. A lot of rinks do like dynamic pricing around the city. We are staying consistent. And with that, it will remain among the cheapest rink in the city. Certainly on the weekends, it will remain the cheapest rink in the city at $24 if you need skate rentals, again, inclusive of all taxes and fees. if we do roughly the same participation numbers that we did last year, which are dependent on a lot of things, including weather. But if we do the same participation that we did last year with this change in pricing, we think we're gonna come really close to breaking even, if not breaking even. And so we're trying to right size the pricing where it is still incredibly affordable, especially as it relates to the other rinks in the city. And it is kind of cost neutral to the market in terms of its long-term sustainability here. So that is expected to open right after Thanksgiving, or excuse me, right before Thanksgiving, and run through the very beginning of February.
Several weekends, right?
The weekends really, so the weekends are in terms of the maximizing your revenue, the weekends are kind of the key. And if you get a rainy weekend, which we had some of, it ends up becoming almost a lost day in that. And again, those are the key days, that school holidays, school breaks. We served about 50,000 skaters last winter. So that's not insignificant.
Remind me again, when the skaters come, do we do like a post visit survey or anything like that? I don't remember. In terms of like, I'm trying to figure out like what has been the community and response to the park.
Yeah. I don't know if we did, but it's certainly something that we can implement relatively easily, and we'll talk to TXG about it. The general feedback that we have gotten has been very, very positive about the quality of the ice and the overarching experience. Additionally, I think that the sense from the surrounding community is that last year's experience from a community impact experience and the size of the support building was significantly improved from the year before, where it was the 2-story building. I think we right-sized the building in that there's a lot of concession, the desire to have a second floor concession in year one it made total sense. And there's a lot of concession opportunity in the surrounding area. And I think what we saw last year is like, literally what people are looking for is like, let me get a cup of hot chocolate while I'm skating. Yeah. And last year we had a sponsor, Kith, who did a 3-week sponsorship where they sold hot chocolate, and that was like a nice wraparound, which is what led us to the conversation.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it would be helpful, especially if the community goes back and says like, why do we keep doing it? We can say that it's been positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, like this was, are you guys working on like marketing the school?
Yep.
Other opportunities for funding school groups to come.
So we definitely engage with all of the schools that do education programming here, letting them know about the rink, creating that as another opportunity. There are one of the conversations that we've been having with the rink, because we are running it in effect. Like if there are times during the regular school day that are not busy, we can easily bring a school group in and be very flexible with what the revenue is for that, what the price is.
Just wondering about, limiting up public trial, so many people have become so excited, you have this opportunity, this opportunity to get funding to bring more school groups in. They have kind of like just really thinking about it like more broadly than just the schools that already use the park.
Totally.
Schools that they
So the majority of our education programs at the education center are Title I schools as well, and not from the immediate surrounding. So we're already in touch with those schools, and it's part of our general education funding model program.
It's kind of.
Okay, so moving on, in a little bit in the meeting, we're going to be talking about the concession RFP, staying on concession for a minute, the concession RFP for the location of Pier 6, currently operated by Fornino. As you know, that Fornino's current agreement ends at the end of this calendar year. Jeff's going to present on that just a little bit. Sorry, there is not we don't have the slides up for this one, but you may have seen in the press, and this has been a conversation that we've been having for a number of years with the governor's office, is that the governor did earlier this fall release a call for artists to design a monument memorial to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This all started originally actually in the previous governor's administration about a memorial to RBG and a selection committee that included RBG's daughter, her longtime law clerk, and others. And Pasternak from the Brooklyn Museum was on that search committee originally about finding a location and a spot at Pier 1, right where, if you think about where we set up the screens for the movie at Pier 1 and how it curves around and kind of dead ends, that dead end spot of the promenade at Pier 1 is the location. And the governor's office has committed $1 million. And the RBG family and committee, if you will, have committed to fundraising any additional money required for the capital build. We, as the park, will have the long-term maintenance of the facility, which is why we are also sitting on the selection committee of the artist, and we'll have final approval over whatever the memorial looks like, not from an aesthetic perspective, as much as from we have the long-term maintenance of this. Will this create a long-term maintenance challenge? And we'll have the ability to weigh in dramatically on any design from that perspective.
Will any of the money raised go to the maintenance fee? Because that will be pricey.
It's not the plan, but that's again what we believe our role is in the development of it, is that we have said from the beginning that we would not be supportive of a memorial that would have a large maintenance cost associated with it. And quite honestly, based on how typically these types of memorials are done or monuments are done throughout the city, I don't believe there are significant meetings. That might know better than anybody, but
We usually have an endowment to cover.
Yeah, are we involved? So first of all, fantastic, spectacular, having her, a monument to her, looking out at the Statue of Liberty. Perfect. Perfect. So took a while, but I'm glad they got it right. In terms of the fundraising, is the park involved in raising the money, or?
So no, the park is not involved in raising money. The park actually reached out to an incredible organization here in the borough that does do this type of thing, and asked them to, if they would be interested in working with the state to fundraise the money for with the committee. Fortunately, the executive director of that incredible organization in Brooklyn is sitting to my right.
Yeah, I think we've met her.
So Brooklyn.org is involved in covering, obviously, please jump in, but Brooklyn.org is involved in this conversation directly with the state now.
Great, because I mean, I know in the legal community, people who I'm sure if approach would be happy to help. So we can proceed. Perfect.
So, and the last two things quickly before we turn it over to Liz and the audit. One is about this building itself, just a quick update on the progress of this building. So we are just wrapping up design drawings, architectural design drawings, which will then move us into the construction drawings for this project. As a reminder, we are completely redoing this ground floor, turning the entire ground floor into a significantly expanded education facility, which will dramatically increase the number of students we can offer, almost upwards of 70%, including many Title I schools. The floors 2 and 3 is where we will relocate the staff offices to. Currently, the floors 2 and 3 are not usable.
Guys,
I'm sorry. We do have $3 million or so from DCLA for the project. That originally was, if you remember back in the days of the SpaceWorks project, to try to get floors 2 and 3 to be done. There's $3 million of that money left that has been redirected to the park specifically for this project, which is great. We also have about $500,000 from Councilman Lincoln Ressler from a couple fiscal years ago that we, the Park Corporation, matched. And then obviously the rest is coming from the capital reserve or coming from dollars that are raised from the Conservancy side through things like Gala and other fundraising efforts that we'll be engaging in. We do expect early estimates, we'll have a better sense of full cost once we move into construction documents. We're looking like it'll be about a $20 million project, which is what we're currently holding in our long-term capital budget. That whole building needs, HVAC, we need an elevator. There's a lot of other MEP work. we don't need a complete roof replacement, but we need certainly a membrane for the roof. So those are, most of the cost is on the structural changes, you know. I don't know when the last time any of you were up on floors 2 and 3, but I don't think I could let you up there without a hard hat, and even then I would say use extreme caution. So so there's a lot of work to be done. We expect the total, once we go into construction, and we expect to be in a place to bring a construction RFP selection to this board probably this summer in June. I think that's our current timeline, is that and then we go into construction late summer, early fall. So a year from now, and we think construction is probably 18 to 24 months, and we are currently using the next several months to figure out what our potential relocation options are during that time. Variety of things that we're looking at, from relocation to other co-working spaces or other spaces, to kind of squeezing in to our operations building next door, and some other buildings around the park, 99 Plymouth, like utilizing space there, being more hybrid schedule than we currently are now. We're looking at a variety of options, so we'll have more on that probably the next time we chat. And then last is on the rec center. So as you all know, moving on this idea of building a rec center underneath Manhattan Bridge, which is still incredibly conceptual at this point. But if we were going to move forward with that, because that space of parkland is covered under the Land Water Conservation Fund, and therefore states that it should be outdoor recreation, as you all know, it would require a waiver from the National Park Service, because it's state park land, long-term to us. It's obviously up to the state to actually be the official applicant to the feds. That there was a lot of work that had to be done before we could make that application request. The state did put in the application late summer. They said maybe you'll hear something back by Thanksgiving. And in the hours leading up to the federal government shutdown, literally in the hours leading up to the government shutdown, we officially received a waiver from the National Park Service.
Wow.
Not really sure how that happened, but it did. Now, I want to be really, really clear. This waiver does not require us to build a rec center, does not require us to build anything in this area. What it does do is that if we do end up going in that direction, and there's a lot that needs to happen between now and then, including there is going to be a change in the city administration, and we will need the support of the mayor, not just for funding, but for lots of things. And I think that there are other potential connections to like other, depending on what happens with Pier 7 and park expansion, and like there's a lot to this conversation. So it certainly doesn't tie our hands, and there's a lot that needs to happen. It does give us the ability, from this one perspective of being legally allowed to do it, we now would be legally allowed to do it. And so we think it's best course of action at this point. Let's let the new administration get in, get settled. Let's see where things are with the BMT project and Pier 7 and the visioning plan, and then we'll go from there. So a lot more to talk about, obviously, but this was a significant legal hurdle that we have now gotten through. Before we turn to the audit, any questions for me on any of that or anything else?
Just if you need, we're about to open the first new rec center in Brooklyn in 50 years.
Any of that?
I think it's going to take a tour over the winter to sort of be possibly either pool, gym,
All the things that we're talking about.
yeah.
What was the cost?
That'd be great.
147 million from Forster and Worcester.
Oh, what?
Great.
Okay.
It's amazing.
Yeah, let's.
It's not quite open
Nice
yet.
work.
It's
Okay.
supposed to
By
open.
name.
All right, yeah, we'll follow up. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Got it.
Been in the dreaming phase for 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great work. Great work.
That's great. Awesome. Then with that, I'd love to invite Liz, our CFO, to talk about our audited financials and the audit. Liz?
Morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. My name is Liz Barostik, and I'm cheating. I have a phone full of notes here. And I'm gonna walk us through the FY 25 financial highlights. I'm joined today in our audience by Jamie Blanda and Leslie Duarte. And
otherwise known as my very robust team. And starting with a pledge line, and I'm incredibly pleased to report that we've received an unmodified or clean audit. Yeah, and I suppose this is no new news to you all because this is yet another year that this has happened for our organization. This means that we received no adjustments, no default issues, and no findings. This reflects strong internal controls and a very highly capable team. Let's talk about our revenues and expenses. Yeah, it is. Thank you, thank you. And if you'll turn to page 4 of the packet, here's you all. And the reason that I'm going to do a recap this is also a bit of good news in the last moments of our conversations with our auditors. We found a little bit of additional revenue. And other than the tax that was included in the report. So if you'll refer to that. You know, it's incredibly small, so pull out your magnifying glasses, folks. And in page 4, our operating revenues rose by $2.5 million, other to $35.5 million, driven by higher pilots, lease income, and nearly doubled our permit and fee revenue. Expenses increased by $3.4 million to $42.2 million. The largest driver was an increase to professional fees, which include legal, engineering, and consultant services, primarily tied to the capital program. And utilities also doubled, and personnel costs rose modestly, and depreciation reached $22.8 million. Non-operating revenues fell by $1.5 million, largely due to no capital contributions and less than $0.6 million lease termination loss. Yeah, our net position declined by $6.3 million, ending at $369.5 million, otherwise known as an incredibly healthy balance. If you will turn to page 6. You'll see that our long-term investments rose by $5.8 million to $27.2 million. Cash and total investments are at $78.4 million. This year we adopted new accounting standards. That was GASB 101. And we will continue to adopt more in the years to come. That's GASB's 102, 103, and 104. As of July 1st, the Brooklyn Bridge partner totally with the Conservancy rules. And this milestone sets the stage for aligned operations and joint advisory committees. However, this has no financial impact on FY20. In closing, DEP remains incredibly strong financially. This is, you know, as a side note, and this is a non-editorial piece. This is the healthiest organization I've ever worked for, and I'm thrilled to be here. And with stable revenues, disciplined spending, and a clean audit, we're incredibly well positioned for long-term sustainability. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yes. So I don't have a question about the audit itself, but obviously this is fantastic. I have a question about the investment, and so should I hold the question?
Why don't I ask, this is the audit,
Yep.
the audit item on the agenda, so I would ask for the audit and finance committee's perspective on this. Correct.
So so our perspective in terms of like the briefing that we had,
Yeah.
we were fine with it, and I think there was no issues.
There were no,
Yeah.
if you want to bring up any other commentary on that.
So the comment on the investment is, since we're sitting on a healthy sort of balance, have we thought about doing anything around impact investing? And when I say impact investing, $1 million or 2 million, 3 million in terms of sort of long-term investing. And I'm not sure who's on the investment committee, but it'd be helpful to understand like where we have these dollars invested. Because this could actually address even affordable housing. Some developers have pre-development costs, et cetera, in a fund. investing in a fund that helps developers, could be attractive as well.
Yes, so, thank you. What I would say is, and we've had this conversation very preliminary with the Audit and Finance Committee, which currently is the committee that we're working on, because we don't have a separate investment committee. So certainly something worth discussing, is that, you know, part of Liz's getting up to speed was taking a look at all of these things and then engaging with the Audit and Finance Committee about like, okay, how do we want to do this? Our policies right now are fairly specific and narrow, but like how do we want to do this moving forward with all of your guidance? And so I think it's an interesting conversation that the Audit and Finance Committee should have about whether or not that conversation stays within the Audit and Finance Committee, or whether or not we do want to create, assuming, I mean, we can create ad hoc committees, right? Or yeah, assuming that we create could have a discussion about creating an investment specific committee and then take this specific guidance with our brand new CFO, who is much more knowledgeable about this thing than I am, and really come up with a strategy and investment plan that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Happy to be part of the conversation. I know Jocelyn. Yeah. Yeah.
Model as their impact investing, that would be amazing, and they're doing.
Yeah.
Would love to be.
Yeah.
I just want to, as another member of the Audit Finance Committee, and if we've already done this, then I'm forgive an old man. But I think I would like to welcome on behalf of the Audit Finance Committee and the entire board, Liz. I mean, you and your team did a great job. Thank
Yeah, I feel that we here, like I said, this is a private organization we work with. And echoing Eric's statement, I'm already digging into how our money, where our money is, what it looks like. Yeah, and I look forward to engaging with you all on possible changes to where our money are invested. So as soon as I get a little bit more ground under my feet, and I can tell you more about where we are invested now. Yeah, but looking forward to conversation. So please, anyone that's interested in engaging further in a conversation, let me.
Are there any other comments from any other directors? Being none, I would ask for a motion to approve the audit and audited financial statements and investment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the third agenda item, thank you. The third agenda item is the annual approval of policies relating to the Public Authorities Accountability Act of 2005, amended by the Public Authorities Reform Act of 2009, which is bookmarked as item 3. Amy.
Before I get into the agenda, I just want to report on those 2025 evaluation, board self-evaluation that we all listened, September 24th, which were as a whole positive. There's just 2 items I wanted to know. One comment, I think you did like the just welcome that time in between the receipt of board materials and the date of the board meeting. So whenever possible, that's easy one to fix. Also wanted to know, there was one response, which unfortunately didn't read on it, which asked for them individually, but it included a few negative responses to some of the questions, but without content, I can't address it. I would say that if anybody wants to talk to me or the governance committee about any of the experiences with the board or suggestions, please do so. So.
As chair of governance, you know how to reach people.
If there are no questions or comments on that, I want to move on to the agenda item. So pursuant to the PAAA, the Public Authorities Accountability Act of 2005, at the end of the Public Authorities Reform Act of 2009, the board is required to annually adopt and approve policies related to certain topics. BVP staff has reviewed and recommends that the board approve the following policies in their existing form. The policies can be found attached to the memo as exhibit A through L. I have done my due diligence here, I'm happy to have those policies. I mean, it's a step back, similarly situated one of you. I therefore request the authors approve these fall policies. They're taken.
Thank you, and I give you the perspective.
Sure. The governance committee met and considered this motion or this proposal. We, Amy, the diligence, keeping us not just consistent with our legal obligations, but consistent with best practices throughout the city's homes.
Are there any other questions or comments? Being done, I ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
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 Motion carries. Now moving on to the fourth agenda item is the authorization to amend the bylaws for the Park Corporation with the Park Board.
December 14th, 2022, the bylaws was to increase the board approval limit contract for releases from 100,000 to 250,000 for a trial period of 2 years. That change was made permanent in October 2024. Now the Boots Select is recommending that the directors increase the board approval limit of the contract from 250,000 to 500,000. This was the audit by last year's firm, but this was at the suggestion of audit. Therefore, the directors are requested to approve the amendment to the bylaws, the set forth on exhibit A to the memo, and to authorize the.
Yeah. Sure. So wearing my governance hat, the governance committee also approved this change and was heartened by the fact that the audit and finance committee, which had, when we did the earlier change, sufficiently cautious about it to do it as a pilot program for the test period. The test was sufficiently successful that it was in fact, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it was in fact the audit and finance committee's suggestion rather than the staff's to increase it again. And again, the reason for those who've not been following this is it's a question of what kinds of adjustments need to be made during the year that are enough ordinary course of business that having to convene a board meeting to approve them is wasteful, inappropriate, and can stand in the way of the park team taking steps that may be time sensitive that they need to deal with. So for all those reasons, that's why you consider and look at limits like this. It's not just an artificial exercise. It's supposed to balance oversight with, realism and the factual situation. So on that basis, both committees, I think.
And if I may, the change in, and Hank's exactly right about sort of why this conversation originated. In fact, the specific example was one summer we needed to buy picnic tables and we didn't have, there was an issue with scheduling a board meeting and we only scheduled that board meeting just to approve the purchase of picnic tables. And so instead we bought 9 tables instead of the 10 tables we thought we needed, because 9 was under the board threshold. And so that's why this conversation actually started several years ago, was like those types of things. But I do want to make the point that regardless of the board threshold limit, it does not change our procurement policy or procedures, that anything above $100,000 still requires a public RFP published in the city record. It still goes through the same rigorous review selection process that we typically go through of assessing bidders based on the quality of their work, past experience, competitive pricing, proposed team is going to work on the job, and their status in meeting our MWBE goals, which mirror the cities at 30%. And so it doesn't change any of that, regardless of whether or not it is above or below the threshold.
Thank you.
So given that, are there any other comments? Seeing none, I ask for a motion to approve this motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Line,
Our capital restoration team does both of this work. Thank you.
The fifth agenda item is the election of treasurer of the corporation. This is item 5, or
Yeah, so this is an administrative, hopefully very, very quick and easy one. Our CFO always, there are 3 official officers to the corporation, myself as the chief executive, Amy as the secretary, and our CFO always serves as the role of treasurer. And as you know, Jordan Watkins left the corporation, resigning his position of CFO and treasurer in May. This is our brand new CFO. We need board to officially name her as treasurer, as an officer of the corporation.
thanks.
Sure, so moved.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I ask for a motion. Second. All in favor?
aye,
The motion carries. The 6th agenda item is the authorization to enter into the license agreement with Brooklyn Pier Partners LLC. The food and beverage concession at the Pier 6 Warming Hub, which is bookmarked as item 6. Jeff Sandron, Brooklyn Bridge Park's chief operating officer.
In August, we released our fee for concessionaires, the building owners, there's a form. More, but that's traditionally what it's called. We received 7 proposals for which we moved forward in further consideration. After interviewing the 4 candidates, we staff have decided to recommend awarding these RFPs to Brooklyn Pier Partners LLC, which we all know as Boninos. Boninos was selected based on their excellent current partnership, planned operations, significant capital improvement, including a new HVAC system and competitive margins. Term of this RFP is 7 years with 3 one-year rules. Boninos was offered the better of.
Keep it on time. Yep.
Sorry. Boninos was offered the better of $100,000 annually at 3.5% escalation or 10% annual receipts. Seems that double checks it.
No, you're right. 3 one-year renewal options.
7.
Yeah, my apologies.
The directors are hereby requested to authorize the fees entering into a licensing agreement with Brooklyn Pier Partners LLC as described above, and authorize the taking of vote.
Did an operations committee.
Yeah, we reviewed this, we with a great partner, and they provided a good product, and we felt very comfortable with moving forward.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I ask for a motion to approve. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Motion carried. The 7th agenda item is the authorization to enter into an agreement with Empire Construction and Property Management Group relating to capital restoration project, which is bookmarked as item 7. I asked John Begg, Brooklyn Bridge Parks Project Manager, Capital Projects and Restoration, to present this. Sorry, John, I might butcher the title now.
Morning, everyone. For item 7, we are requesting board authorization for into an agreement for the demolition and replacement of the boardwalk decking and subframing at Empire Fulton Port. In August 25, Brooklyn Bridge Park issued a request for proposal for general construction services and received 8 competitive bids. After reviewing the proposals and interviewing 3 firms, the selection committee unanimously selected Empire Construction and Property Management Incorporated. This selection is based on Empire's demonstrated success working in Brooklyn Bridge Park and throughout the New York City area. The strength of the proposed, their competitive pricing, as well as their status as an MWP client contract. The agreement being presented for consideration and approval represents a total requested authorization of $567,000 and 648. Sorry, $567,648, which includes a 10%. The directors are hereby requested to authorize for parks to enter into contract with our construction and taking all the way. Your time.
And the audit and finance committee perspective. We reviewed it and approved it, thought it was the right choice. Other comments, concerns? Ask for a motion to approve,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Michael Ayub, the owner of Torino, just texted me, said, please express my gratitude to board. Very excited to be coming back and work on it. All of you. We are.
And you the rest.
You know what, when you have a good partner, like that definitely worth something, and the significant renovation we make space.
Are there any other matters?
Yep, sorry, as we're talking about capital,
Yeah.
the damage that was done by the ship.
Yep.
Do you have any updates or anything, or is it just,
It's done, fixed.
oh, okay,
So, the historic ship from Mexico did hit the bridge, it hit the bulkhead, and then it crashed into a section of the marine rail right at the edge of the Emily Warren Roebling Plaza, where last Wednesday we had a lovely cocktail hour, and right before the gala. And we had, you may remember that the board approved a contract with Deborah Bradley to do some paving in the Adams Street section of the park, as well as some marine rail fixes in the Dumbo section of the park. We were able to lump this repair at the plaza in with that contract, increase the contract. And this was all in advance of the board approval. It increased the cost of that contract by about $100,000. And that work is now completed. DOT has begun their work on the bulkhead, as the bulkhead is their property, not ours. They actually started their work a few weeks ago and then graciously demobilized last week for the gala. So we could have the cocktail hour there, and then remobilized this week. They've been actually really easy to work with on this project. And I see your face.
person.
Miracles never cease.
Thank the public.
It is, yeah, Deputy Commissioner Paul Schwartz has been a true mention in this.
Deputy Commissioner Sports is a mensch. He's a friend.
And so that work has been done. We were certainly asked, and we've been asked by some of your colleagues on the board about going after reimbursement for the $100,000. And our general perspective has been, we have the money, we were able to lump this into an existing contract, not too much of an expenditure, and trying not to create an international incident.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question on, I just want to go back to the ice skating rink.
Yeah.
It completely makes sense to me that you guys are raising prices, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. We all won't be here forever, you won't be here forever. Is there any ways, because like right now, for like a family of four, it's gonna be $96 to.
If
get them in.
they need skates.
If they need, they probably need to, right? No, one out of every
Yep.
family will have their own skates. But what is there, like, what can we put in place to ensure that like whoever follows you isn't like, okay, we can actually charge $30 a ticket, like, you know. Cause like part of what makes the space so special is the affordability of it, and that's the goal, but that's not enshrined.
It's a good question. My immediate thought goes to the fact that, I mean, at the end of the day, I serve at your and the deputy mayor and the mayor's pleasure. And so, anyone sitting in my seat that would take an action like that without sort of good rationale and a reason, like presumably, like there could be recourse from all of you with that.
I won't be here either, you know, what's up?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to put a head in your idea of like recourse, by the way. Let us, I want to kind of engage with our lawyers on that question.
Like something in place so that maybe we're actually looking for.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's something that can be put in place as a this is a community where only does, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure that can happen. I think by speaking to your lawyer and city. or something more.
Yeah, so James, I wanna try not to get out ahead of Amy and Joel, because I find that's when I get myself in trouble, is not being. Yeah, no, so I wanna do that, but I hear the point, art, we obviously, and I hear the point of like, we all won't necessarily be here forever. I do think the rink is a year by year thing, quite frankly, because of how significant the annual cost is. And this is the reality of like why it didn't work as a concession, right? Like the cost, the build out cost is so significant that it is a year to year decision that we all need to make as to whether or not it is viable.
It's the revenue work, I mean, I'm sure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hear that it's taking care of itself, but.
Well, that's the hope. Last year again, it did not. And every year, the $2 million expenditure, which by the way, is probably gonna grow year to year, just in keeping up with inflation, right? But that $2 million cost is approved by the board in the budget. So there is a piece that is in place certainly of the expenditure. And I do think that part of that board approval of the expenditure in the annual budget should come with a discussion and can come with a discussion of, and what do we think the pricing structure is going to be?
I just think that it's such a community, I mean, like, it's just something to really think about, like, do you want it to be only available to people who can afford that?
I totally agree, which again is why we continue to set the pricing, and while the pricing has grown from last year, I think if we're being really, really honest about it, last year we did ourselves a little bit of a corporate disservice by pricing it so low, so that the jump from 10 to 16 this year feels kind of like a lot. But when you look at even Prospect Park on the weekends, Prospect Park is charging, not inclusive of tax fees, weekend admission to Prospect on the weekend day is over 20. So I do think that there is.
And I'm not off. And we are. And I'm not saying.
And we are.
I'm not saying this price increase is inappropriate.
No, I
still
understand.
think that further price increases wouldn't be appropriate, but if it's like pegged to something that makes sense, so it's not just like.
Right.
16 to 35, right?
Yeah, no, and again, I think the immediate thing that we can definitely do is like, but it does put a little bit back on you all, which is like, when we're going through the budget, assuming this is a line item in the capital budget next year, which is where we put it. Is okay, but before we say yes on the capital budget, like what's the proposed pricing structure? But in the interim, let us engage on whether maybe there's a board resolution or something.
Reach out to foundation, get a few of us meet together and fund some, you know what I mean, because that would count, right, like, so that has, it would be something to think about, I mean, I can't make any decisions for our funding.
Yeah,
But.
we are
what
also looking at,
partnerships look like, they can get a few funders to come together and say, hey, we fund this because of this need.
yeah,
So it's something like that, I think it's a great.
and we're also looking at the
Maybe that gives
sponsorship.
a way
The sponsorship as well, like what makes Bryant Park work is that they are.
Maybe
literally
make right
across the
with
street
him, and he
from
can come
Bank
in 99.
No, to be clear, I think sponsorship would probably be the best route.
Yeah, and
because
we have
I'm
somebody
just
working
thinking,
on
I'm just thinking about like our revenues and like, I just don't see a funder looking at the amount of money we have sitting in cash saying like, oh, you guys are cash poor.
which is always,
Right.
I'm calling for the need.
Yeah, I definitely could see a sponsor, right, because you have all these eyeballs and families coming in to offset the
Yeah.
cost. But because it's a year-to-year thing, let's wait until the lawyers come back, but I suspect it's gonna be our responsibility to make sure that affordability stays where we think it's appropriate.
Just part of the competition offer a number of sessions that are free to me.
Right.
And I also don't think we can find a successful board. This is,
Right. I mean, I think,
some board that comes after we're gone. This is, we don't want it skating.
Mhm.
Tell them they can't do this.
I think these are a lot of really good creative suggestions for how to fund it. Amy, if you call Paul Kelly at the Navy Yard, he can fill you in. I mean, my memory of it, which may be quite imperfect, is some of it is zoning in terms of the residential. Some of it may be our contract with the city because we operate pursuant to an agreement. We're a not-for-profit, the Navy, referring to the Navy Yard. We're a not-for-profit that operates city property. So some of it may be there, but Marty's basic point about if it's not legally binding and something beyond the control of the board, it is going to depend on future boards. And the only encouragement, other than finding other ways to fund it so that this isn't an issue going forward, is this debate for this part was resolved, and so far has stayed resolved back in the days of the LDC, when one of the models for the recreation stuff here was, oh, let's build Chelsea Piers. And the LDC said, no, I'll leave out the adjective, no way. Our model in terms of things we charge for is going to be YMCA, not Chelsea Piers. So that principle, and the Navy Yard also has, we've got an emission statement. So again, it doesn't bind anybody, but it gives guidance to future boards. So enshrining in some way is consistent with the history of
You're suggesting some sort of resolution by the board.
a resolution or adopt them, if we think, if the lawyers don't come up with something else, and we are concerned about that, don't think the politics that between good people who have access to resources stepping in to eliminate the issue that you guys are talking about, or the politics of future mayors not wanting to be the Grinch who stole Christmas, right? Both of which can be good answers to this if we want to do something as a board to say we feel this way. I think, some kind of mission statement or something in a board resolution.
Yeah.
Not binding on the future, but it's a benchmark.
No, green houses, green skating. Whole new world could unfold.
I think, yes, I understand that there are no comments from the public.
Okay, great.
I guess.
Wonderful.
So seeing that there are no additional public commentary, I would like to offer the opportunity to go into executive session for no interest in that. I'm going to ask for a final question.
So moved.
Second. Favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Aye.
Aye.